In 1498, in the city of Seville, Spain, Diego Alvarez lived a quiet and respectable life as a cloth and leather merchant. His small shop stood near one of the busy market streets, where customers had known him for years as an honest and fair man. He rose early every morning, opened his shutters, arranged his fabrics carefully, and greeted buyers with polite warmth. His income was modest but stable, enough to provide comfort for his wife, Isabel, and their 2 daughters. Their home was small but clean, filled with the sounds of children's laughter and the steady rhythm of daily routines. Diego's family had converted from Judaism to Christianity more than 50 years earlier. His grandparents had accepted baptism under pressure, as many families had done to avoid expulsion or worse. Officially, they were Christians. They attended Mass, paid church taxes, and followed public religious customs. Yet within the privacy of their home, certain traditions survived. On Friday evenings, candles were lit. Certain foods were avoided. Some prayers were whispered quietly. These habits were passed down not as acts of rebellion but as inherited ways of living, so deeply rooted that Diego never questioned them. To Diego, these customs were simply family traditions. He did not see them as religious defiance. He believed himself to be a loyal subject of the crown and a faithful Christian. He paid his dues, respected authority, and avoided conflict. He trusted that honesty and hard work would protect him. He was wrong. One of his neighbors, a man he had known for years, observed these habits. This neighbor had borrowed money from Diego and had never repaid it. He envied Diego's stable business and resented his quiet success. Whether motivated by bitterness, greed, fear, or religious fanaticism, the man went to the Holy Office and reported Diego's household. He spoke of candles, of food, of whispered prayers. In the language of the Inquisition, these small details became proof of heresy. One morning, as Diego was returning from the market, officers of the Holy Office approached him. They did not shout. They did not explain. They simply took him by the arms and led him away. Passers-by watched in silence. Some looked away. Some whispered. No one intervened. Inquisition arrests were final. Resistance was pointless. Diego was taken to the Castillo de San Jorge, the fortress that housed the Inquisition's headquarters. Once inside, he was led underground through narrow corridors where moisture dripped from stone walls. The air smelled of decay and fear. Torches flickered weakly, casting distorted shadows. Somewhere ahead, he heard rhythmic sounds that chilled his blood. He was placed in a small cell with no windows. Days passed without explanation. Food was minimal. Sleep was interrupted. He was left alone with his thoughts and growing terror. Eventually, guards came for him. They led him to a chamber filled with strange devices. Ropes, pulleys, frames, chains, and metal tools lined the walls. A Dominican friar stood calmly beside a man wearing a leather apron. The friar spoke softly, almost kindly. He said the church wanted only truth. He promised mercy in exchange for confession. He said suffering was meant to save Diego's soul. Diego insisted he was innocent. The first punishment was public humiliation. He was forced to wear the San Benito, a yellow garment decorated with flames and demons. He was marched through the streets in an auto da fe. His neighbors, customers, friends, and even distant relatives watched as he walked in shame. Some looked with pity. Many looked with disgust. His children hid their faces. His wife wept silently. Afterward, the garment was hung in the church, bearing his name. It would remain there long after his death, marking his family forever. When humiliation failed, physical torture began. First came flogging. Diego was stripped and tied to a post. The whip struck his back again and again. Skin split, blood flowed, muscle was exposed. Each stroke burned like fire. He screamed until his voice broke. Still, he refused to confess to lies. Next was the heretic's fork. The metal device was strapped around his neck. 2 prongs pressed under his chin. 2 pressed into his chest. He could not lower his head. He could not sleep. He could not speak. If he moved, pain stabbed into his flesh. For days, he stood or sat in agony, drifting in and out of exhaustion. The word aburo mocked him, reminding him that surrender was 1 word away. He did not surrender. Then came the strapado. His hands were tied behind his back. A rope lifted him into the air. His entire weight hung from twisted shoulders. Pain exploded through his arms and chest. Joints dislocated. Ligaments tore. Sometimes he was dropped suddenly, the rope jerking him violently. He screamed until his throat bled. Weights were added to his ankles. His body swayed like a broken pendulum. Afterward, he could barely move his arms, but questioning continued. Next was the rack, the patra. Diego was laid on a wooden frame. Ropes bound his wrists and ankles. Rollers were turned slowly. His body stretched. Joints separated. Tendons snapped. The ropes cut into his flesh. He heard cracking sounds and did not know if they came from the wood or from his bones. Pain consumed every thought. He fainted. They revived him. They continued. When he still refused to confess falsely, they brought out the toca. He was strapped down with his head lower than his feet. A cloth covered his face. Water was poured slowly. It soaked into the cloth and filled his mouth and nose. He could not breathe. Panic seized him. His body convulsed. He believed he was dying. Just as consciousness faded, the cloth was removed. He gasped desperately. Then it began again, over and over. He vomited water and bile. His lungs burned. His throat was raw. Sometimes he lost consciousness. Sometimes he prayed for death. Still, he did not invent crimes. Finally, they used the wooden horse. He was stripped naked and forced to straddle a narrow beam. All his weight pressed into sensitive flesh. His hands were tied. His feet dangled. Weights were added to his ankles. Pain radiated through his body. Nerves screamed. Blood circulation failed. Hours passed. He lost all sense of time. After each session, he was returned to his cell, broken and trembling. His wounds were left untreated. Infection set in. Fever came and went. He lost weight. His hair thinned. His teeth loosened. His hands shook constantly. Interrogations continued. The friars remained calm. They spoke politely. They reminded him that confession would end everything. They urged him to name others. They suggested names. They offered him words to repeat. They wanted him to destroy not only himself but his community. Eventually, like many before him, Diego reached his limit. His body was ruined. His mind was fractured. He no longer knew what day it was. He dreamed of drowning, of falling, of endless darkness. He saw his daughters in hallucinations. He heard his wife calling him. One day, barely conscious, he whispered what they wanted. He confessed. He admitted to secret practices he had never committed. He named people he barely knew. He repeated the script they gave him. The torture stopped. But his life did not return. He was sentenced publicly. His property was seized. His shop was closed. His family was left impoverished. His name became a stain. His daughters struggled to marry. His wife worked as a servant. They lived in shame. Diego was released years later, crippled and broken. His arms never healed. He walked with difficulty. He could not work. He spent his days begging quietly near churches, ignored by most. He died young. No record shows that he ever truly practiced heresy. His confession was preserved in archives as proof of justice. His suffering was recorded as procedure. His pain was reduced to ink on parchment. The Spanish Inquisition developed torture into a systematic institution. It combined law, religion, psychology, and cruelty into a machine of control. Every step was documented. Every method was justified. Every scream was considered acceptable. It was not driven only by faith. It was driven by power, fear, greed, and conformity. Confessions validated authority. Property seizures enriched institutions. Terror maintained obedience. Diego Alvarez was one of thousands. Merchants, farmers, scholars, women, children, and elders passed through those corridors. Some survived. Many did not. Most were forgotten. Their stories remain hidden in dusty archives and broken records. Yet their suffering stands as a warning. When belief is used to silence doubt, when power is shielded from accountability, when fear replaces justice, ordinary people become victims. The Inquisition shows how easily cruelty can be disguised as virtue, how violence can be called salvation, and how systems can destroy lives while claiming moral authority. Diego's life, once simple and hopeful, was consumed by this system. He wanted only to live, work, love his family, and grow old in peace. Instead, he became a lesson written in pain. And history remembers him not as a criminal, but as a reminder of what happens when humanity is sacrificed to ideology.